Before the trial, Oscar's family and friends pleaded, "Leave England." He refused. Could he have known what was in store? Could he have guessed what hatred he would rouse in the breasts of the British judiciary? Had he seen his fearful future, would he have run away? He did not do so. He stood his ground, he braved the danger.
People thought it dreadful of me to have entertained at dinner the evil things of life and to have found pleasure in their company. But they, from the point of view through which I, as an artist, approached them, were delightfully suggestive and stimulating. It was like feasting with panthers. The danger was half the excitement.
On November 13th, 1895, I was brought down here from London. From 2 o'clock to 2:30 on that day, I had to stand on the center platform of Clapham Junction in convict dress and handcuffed for the world to look at. I had been taken out of the hospital ward without a moment's notice being given to me. Of all possible objects, I was the most grotesque. When people saw me, they laughed. Each train as it came up swelled the audience. Nothing could exceed their amusement. That was, of course, before they knew who I was. As soon as they had been informed, they laughed still more. For half an hour, I stood there in the gray November rain, surrounded by a jeering mob.
All trials are trials for one's life, just as all sentences are sentences of death. And 3 times have I been tried. The first time I left the box to be arrested, the second time to be led back to the house of detention, the third time to pass into prison for 2 years. Society, as we have constituted it, will have no place for me, has none to offer. But nature, whose sweet rains fall on unjust and just alike, will have clefts in the rocks where I may hide, and secret valleys in whose silence I may weep undisturbed. She will hang the night with stars so that I may walk abroad in the darkness without stumbling, and send the wind over my footprints so that none may track me to my hurt. She will cleanse me in great waters, and with bitter herbs make me whole.
The judge gave Oscar Wilde 2 years hard labour. But in effect it was a death sentence, and not just of the body, but of the mind and imagination. The law wished to maim Oscar, even to torture him. Yet, out of his suffering came his great cries from the heart, the ballad of Reading Gaol and De Profundis. They had shut him from the light, but they hadn't silenced him.
Along with these things, I had things that were different. I let myself be lured into long spells of senseless and sensual ease. I amused myself with becoming a flaneur, a dandy, a man of fashion. I surrounded myself with the smaller natures and the meaner minds. I became the spendthrift of my own genius, and to waste an eternal youth gave me a curious joy.
My mother and my father had bequeathed me a name they had made noble and honored, not merely in literature, art, archaeology, and science, but in the public history of my own country, in its evolution as a nation. I had disgraced that name eternally. I had made it a low byword among low people. I had dragged it through the very mire. I had given it to brutes that they might make it brutal, and to fools that they might turn it into a synonym for folly. What I suffered then and still suffer is not for pen or paper to record.
Where there is sorrow, there is holy ground. Someday you will realize what that means. You will know nothing of life till you do. Robbie and natures like his can realize it. When I was brought down from my prison to the court of bankruptcy between 2 policemen, Robbie waited in the long corridor, that before the whole crowd, whom an action so sweet and simple hushed into silence, he might gravely raise his hat to me, as handcuffed and with bowed head I passed him by. Men have gone to heaven for smaller things than that. It was in this spirit and with this mode of love that the saints knelt down to wash the feet of the poor, or stooped to kiss the leper on the cheek. I've never said one single word to him about what he did. I do not know to the present moment whether he is aware that I was even conscious of his action.
There are times when sorrow seems to me to be the only truth. Other things may be illusions of the eye or the appetite, made to blind the one and cloy the other. But out of sorrow have the worlds been built, and at the birth of a child or a star, there is pain.
With a width and a wonder of imagination that fills one almost with awe, Christ took the entire world of the inarticulate, the voiceless world of pain as his kingdom, and made of himself its eternal mouthpiece, and feeling with the artistic nature of one to whom sorrow and suffering were modes through which he could realize his conception of the beautiful, that an idea is of no value till it becomes incarnate and is made an image. He makes of himself the image of the man of sorrows, and as such has fascinated and dominated art as no Greek god ever succeeded in doing.
Behind joy and laughter, there may be a temperament, coarse, hard, and callous. But behind sorrow, there's always sorrow. Pain, unlike pleasure, wears no mask.
I remember I used to say that I could bear a real tragedy if it came to me with purple pall and a mask of noble sorrow. But that the dreadful thing about modernity was that it put tragedy into the raiment of comedy, so that the great realities seemed commonplace, or grotesque, or lacking in style. It is quite true about modernity. It has probably always been true about actual life.
Some kill their love when they are young.
Some when they're old.
Some strangle with their hands of lust.
Some with hands of gold.
The kindest use a knife.
Because the dead so soon grow cold.
Some love too little.
Some love too long.
Some sell.
Some buy.
Some do the deed with so many tears.
Some without a sigh.
For each man kills the thing he loves.
Yet each man does not die.
Yet each man does not die.
Each man
does not die.
Does not die.
The cruelty of a prison sentence starts when you come out.
To those who are in prison, tears are a part of every day's experience. A day in prison on which one does not weep is a day on which one's heart is hard, not a day on which one's heart is happy.
He did not wear his scarlet coat, for blood and wine are red. And blood and wine were on his hands when they found him with the dead, the poor dead woman whom he loved, and murdered in her bed.
I never saw a man who looked with such a wistful eye upon that little tent of blue, which prisoners call the sky, and at every drifting cloud that went with sails of silver by.
And I, and all the souls in pain who tramped the other ring, forgot if we ourselves had done a great or little thing, and watched, with gaze of dull amaze, the man who had to swing. Strange it was to see him pass with a step so light and gay. Strange it was to see him look so wistfully at the day. And strange it was to think that he had such a debt to pay.
The governor was strong upon the Regulations Act. The doctor said that death was but a scientific fact, and twice a day the chaplain called and left a little tract.
In Reading jail by Reading town, there is a pit of shame, and in it lies a wretched man eaten by teeth of flame. In a burning, winding sheet he lies, and his grave has got no name. And there till Christ call forth the dead, in silence let him lie. No need to waste the foolish tear, or heave the windy sigh. The man had killed the thing he loved, and so he had to die.
And all men kill the thing they love. By all let this be heard. Some do it with a bitter look, some with a flattering word. The coward does it with a kiss, the brave man with a sword.